Thank you very much, Joel. I hope everybody can hear me just fine. Pretty much I've been listening to this entire conversation. It's 1 out of 1. That's a little bit horrible here. Let me see if I can make this a little bit easier for everybody to hear. That should be fine. Okay, well, pretty much this is my question. You should be able to hear me. I should have 5 out of 5. Alright, there we go. Okay, so here we go. Pretty much from what you've been saying is that you're trying to give some sort of, personal perspective and some uplifting words to the audience that reads your writing. But pretty much what I want to know is, like, with all your writings and attempts to inform people on your attempts, on rising above the mediocrity, that most people take as fact and to open minds of those who read your work. Do you really think that you are giving miracles or merely giving positivity? I know that the placebo effect works in medications, so within the aspect of your own words, or psychics who are merely telling you, what you want to hear. Is this, in this, do you actually believe that you could heal physically or physical and mental stability, or merely adapting to mental stimuli? Wouldn't it be called more of a motivational speaker? Also, it seems like you believe in the magnetics of the universe that pulls and, pushes and pulls from its born values. So I want to know exactly, how do you really believe to have people take you seriously when you have so many jumbled up opinions, and not actually, you try to go a little bit logical, but pretty much my main question is, isn't what you're writing more of a motivational speech than it is any type of, uplifting miracle?
Yeah, you could say that there, Temper Pro. You could say that it is motivational speaking and motivating people to find that power within themselves to transform their lives. In my book, Two Minds, One Choice, I actually start every chapter with what I would call, or other people might call, a miracle. And the first one is where I talk about my mother, and I had to ask my mother for permission to put this in the book. I said, look, I want to ask you this because this happened in your life, and I'm going to put it in the book if it's okay. So she said, yes, you can put it in the book. And it was at a time about 4 or 5, maybe 6 years ago now, where my mother was in New Zealand going to have an operation where she was going to have both knees cut out. So you imagine you're cutting the femur and the tibia and fibula at that point and taking the whole knee joints out and putting titanium knee joints in both legs. So it was like quite a devastating operation for a woman at that age who was about 76 years old. And I was sitting in my room writing a document, and I was in a state of meditation. And I felt my mother's presence urgently coming into me and calling upon me. And then I suddenly realized that she is in the hospital the night before the operation. She was going to be having the operation the next day. And so I sort of suddenly realized that, and I spun around in my chair and pointed my hands towards New Zealand. I'm in Australia, Melbourne, Australia, and I sort of swung eastward, if you know what I mean. And my intention was to give her a feeling of peace, because I felt her distraught feelings within herself, I felt her fears, I felt everything else. And I just put my hands out, and the energy ran through me, and I just felt this energetic extension of my own creative ability, and it just embraced her. And what happened was, to cut a long story short, 2 snow white doves manifested in the ensuite of her hospital room. And the nurses who came to my distraught mother, she heard the flapping and the carry on in the room, and there's 2 snow white doves manifest, instantaneous manifestation. Well, that's the sort of thing that has happened to me a lot. It's happened to me a lot, where you can actually create, through the mind, very powerful instantaneous manifestations of physical reality in the templates of the hologram that we have here through intention. It happens to me a lot, and some of us are carrying these codes of ancient times that we used to be able to manifest things instantly without having to work by the sweat of the brow and having to be involved in a system of money and buying and trading and all the rest of it. We have the capacity inside of us. It's like an innate capacity to create and manifest the objects of our own desire, and we've been shut down from this mind that we can use. And so this is what I like to talk about in my book a little bit, because I start every chapter with miracles like that have happened in my reality. And we've all got codes of union with higher frequency thought that can actually do these things. Not all of us are experiencing this kind of thing, but it's happening with me, and I like to talk about it. And I don't like to say anyone's less or more than me because they're not doing it. I say that everyone has these capacities within themselves that have been shut down, and that through the knowledge of the alignment they can bring these capacities and more up into operation within themselves to create a world that they truly want. And so this is something that I've been able to demonstrate to myself, and others have witnessed it. And my book writes a little bit about that, but my book's not totally about that. My book's about how we can realign, how we can reconnect, how we can dissolve the distortions in the templates of the hologram that we're perpetually creating, the disasters that we experience. And you know, can you imagine 7 billion people on the planet projecting a corrupted mind and seeing a corrupted world, when all of us can realign with their perpetual motion flows and reinstall the template encryption codes of true creation and create something that we truly desire to see and experience. And that's what the book's about. It's about that. So there you go, Temper Pro. I just wanted to answer that in that way. If there's any other part I missed on your question, I'll be certainly glad to address that as well if I can. So hand over.
Well, thank you very much for explaining this and actually coming to the room thoughtbridge live. You know, it's always good to have people who have strong brains who are actually able to, you know, discuss their, you know, all the different impulses in their brain without having some sort of stupid comments behind it. So pretty much, so what you're saying is that you've used your writing as a way to explain situations that have happened in your life and to actually open your mind to alternative notions. And you know, when you talked about like seeing some sort of doves, don't you think that's a coincidence? It happens all the time. You know, people take fate as a coincidence all the time. You know, I do believe that positive actions have positive results and vice versa. But now it would seem a bit cheap to say that you have writings that another has not already written. Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, which were all part of the same circle, believe that positivity brings positivity, which is known by most who have some sort of spiritual essence. I would just want to ask you, lastly, how are your writings unique in comparison to the last 1,000 years of philosophers?
Well, everybody is unique. Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates, you know, they're all unique characters, and they're all manifesting their dreams. They're all bringing it forth. You know, the things I've written about, they're my experiences, and people can write about their own experiences, and they do. When they wrote about Jesus, or when they wrote about different masters or whatever were in the planet, they've written down things. Some of them are mythical, some of them are ideology. You know, who knows? But to me, it's my reality. I'm writing about my reality, and basically I'm going more, see, because what I'm talking about here is every teaching in the planet is a derivative and a distortion of an original template of teaching and knowledge. So we have all fallen from a higher degree of knowledge, and we've all been suppressed and controlled and shut down. My writing is to encourage people to find within themselves those innate parts of themselves which are so creative and able to do the things that they desire to do, and to let them flow through. So basically that's what I'm saying. You know, we can do what we want in this world, and we can continue in the distortion. Everyone in this world has been conditioned by this world of dead men. You know, if you think about it, every thought in the minds of the people in this world basically are coming from education, from TV, from media, from everything else, and from input from outside, and they are suppressing creative reality within that person. To find your own creative reality and to cast away the thoughts of dead men. That's what I'm talking about. And I point towards an energetic stream in the cosmic alignments that are coming into the planet at this time to reinvigorate our original consciousness and to lift us up into higher dimensional planes, because the world is in a distortion and in a decay. And the ratio of decay to living structure is getting to the point, or actually has overthrown the living structure. So decay is overthrowing living structure, and it's very fast and very quickly. The consciousness of this planet is very quickly being drawn down into a black hole vortex system, and that's what this whole physics is about. It's teaching people that we're in a vortex energy decaying system, and that our thoughts are not our own, and we've been running the agendas of other people through our own templates and creating devastation to others unwittingly. But if you're going to change your circumstances, you're going to find that creative energy within yourself and start creating in truth. That's what my teaching's about. So there is, if you go to the website, you go to my website, twominds1choice.com, and you'll find there's a technology link. And there are two websites on there where this technology is coming from, and it's coming into this Milky Way galaxy for the very last time, and we've got about 200 years of evacuation notice on the planet for people to get their mind in order and to migrate their consciousness off this planet, or be dragged down into a decaying system which from that point on would have no opportunity of ascending out. They'd lose integrity as an entity and be descending down with less and less returns into their own conscious awareness. And there is a path through, even in that way. There's a path through. I can talk about it later on, but it's basically saying, hey, if you guys want to wake up, now's the time to wake up, and all the help that's here is right here with you. But you've got to be doing the asking yourself. You've got to be understanding what's happening to you. You've got to be understanding what's going on in the world, and say, hey, I can now see the state of the play. I can now see what's happening in the world, how I have been manipulated, how I can wake up, and how I can take control of my life. So that's what the book's about. So anyway, hand over the mic, and next speaker. Thank you. I'll just answer that a little bit, the South Buddha. For a start, the teachings that we're embracing at the moment teach that if your body goes to the grave, your biological body has an encryption which is holding your part of yourself is buried with that body. Even though your spiritual essence rises up, it has been tethered together with the biological chemical structure of your anatomy, and it will have to reincarnate back into this earth to overcome until you can release what we call there's a certain structure that bonds with the elemental form, and until you release that structure, you're going to be tethered into the earth magnetosphere in reincarnational cycles. And so you need to know how to actually go through the process of dying. If you're going to lay a body down and migrate to another dimensional frequency band, firstly you have to have accreted about 4.5 strands of DNA to actually get the body frequency up, and then you can do what they call a Barlow cycle and lay your body down and extract your energy and go into other planetary systems of re-evolution. You can actually, if you've got your frequency up to a certain strand capacity, you can go into other planetary systems for re-evolution. But until that time, you're bound down here in the earth, tethered together with the biological form that you buried in the ground. You've got to release that. You've got to release that. And until you do, you're tethered together in this electromagnetosphere of the earth, which is held in containment. And you're going to have to learn how to do that. It's not just you get out of here and you go to some other place. No. You're going to do reincarnational cycles bound down here until you release that part of you that's tethered into the atomic structure. And there's a certain scientific, physical reality involved in knowing how to do that. And this comes with the knowledge of creation science. So there you go. Just wanted to say that. So here you go. Hand over the mic to Intbell. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. Good day, mate. Had a wonderful day. How you doing? We know you're doing well. You can hear it. I've listened to you from the beginning, and I'm obviously very enthusiastic. That's good. People who are not enthusiastic do not write quality books. And as you began, I thought, hey, this guy can write a book, so can I. Hey, there's motivation. And then I was listening, and I thought, hey, there's parallels here. I see so many parallels between your life and mine. I thought, I won't write a book. It's already been written. After about halfway through, I began to realise that you and I have gone off in totally different directions. We start with the same stuff and finish up with different conclusions. All right? So I'm not going to go on where we differ, because otherwise we'd be here all night, and this isn't about what we differ. It's about questions. No doubt that we can have a debate on that later. If you're not here to have a debate, the rest of us can. One question is that you have this resistance to authority, and yet later on you chose to join a church system. Now, that sounds so contradictory in my mind. You have a resistance to authority. How do you correlate that with joining a church system? Obviously, resistance to authority prevailed, and you left the church system. But I can't get my head around how you would join such a system in the first place when authority was sort of anathema to you. There's my question.
And that's a very good question, Intbell, and thanks for it, because it's like a matter of timing. It's like at the time I joined the church, I didn't know it was an authoritarian system that was bringing dogmatism and doctrines and controls. I did not know that. I, at a very early age, as an infant, was baptised in the Church of England, and didn't have much more to do with it until I was a teenager. Probably just before I got married, I had to go for 6 weeks so that officially I could get married in the church, so to speak, which I didn't really know much about the world in that time. I did have an anti-authoritarian attitude because I knew things weren't right in the world. I knew things weren't right in the world, and I did not really know at that time that the church was not right in the world. I knew the newspapers weren't right, because my father told me a long, long time ago, he said, look at the newspapers, he said, don't read them, he said, everything in there is just a distortion and it's a manipulation and it's a control. And my dad told me that when I was very young. And so maybe that's why I never read a book until I was the age of 45. I never read a book. And, you know, it's funny, I didn't really know that the church was a controlling mechanism. When I was in my state of despair, I turned to the church because I wanted to find solace, I wanted to find peace, and I thought that it represented that. But very early on in the picture, I realized that it did not represent that. It did not represent truth. It represented control, it represented dogmatism, it represented an extension of other governmental orders that, you know, ran through the church. And my strength was remaining in the church, having woken up to the fact that my inner revelation was not really in comparison to what the church was teaching, finding my strength and growing as a young sapling in the church setting, not defying the church but emanating truth into the congregation. And I was virtually emanating a truer aspect of reality, as far as I knew, into the church. And I was trying to convert the church to Christ. I was trying to convert the church to Christ, because Christ, to me, in our teachings that we have with kathara, Christ came from the word, it's a derivative that came from the word Christ, K-R-Y-S-T. And K-R-Y-S-T, that's the 7 sound tones of creation. Karayasatahala. And so it's like, that's the 7 sound tones of creation, and that's where the word Christ come from. So I realized, you know, when I was in the church, that my revelation internally was far greater than what the people in the congregation seemed to be experiencing. And I was there to help them understand what the teachings of the Christ really were. And my progression through my experiences were really to gain more and more knowledge and understanding and expression of life, transcending the doctrines and the codes of this dead world, and to come into a perfect teaching and a perfect alignment with the creative flows of life. And that's what I feel now through Kathara I'm aligning with. And I can talk to church people and they haven't got a clue what I'm talking about. You know, I can see what Jesus demonstrated, I can see what the Bible originally was trying to bring forth. I know there's massive distortions in the Bible, and I know all of that sort of stuff. But to me, my inner reality was what was speaking. My inner reality was telling me something, and it was my progression through, it was my growing through, it was my journey, it was coming through, and even breaking perhaps incarnational parts of myself that were linked to church teaching. And I found that actually when I was progressing through the cleansing and purging of my templates of my hologram and the stored memories that were down there in incarnational places within my body form, I found that I had a lot of religiosity in there, and a lot of things, part of me, that were actually perpetuating the church teaching. And I was very glad to come to a point in myself where I could liberate myself from that and find the strength and the knowledge of true alignment to actually come out and transcend that. And I find now that I am transcending that. I am transcending those controls and mechanisms, and through my healing I'm able to offer that healing to other people, which, you know, in the mind, in the expression of my energy. I see many people set free and healed in my presence. That's not a boast or anything else. It's like when you embody the Christ, when you embody the frequencies of the creative energy, and they run through your templates, and you unify your mind with the instantaneous quantum communication of everything that is, you start to bring forth from within yourself healing frequencies to set creation free, because all minds are communicating. All minds are communicating continuously. And if you have a mind of higher frequency and healing and love and light and liberty, you can shine that into the minds of others, and they automatically walk into that presence and state, and they start to transfigure themselves, because that's what they're looking for. Everyone is looking for the peace and love of true creation and communication between all the members of whatever we are. You know, there's countless members in creation, and we're looking for peace between us. We're looking for communication in truth between us, and the more you can do it in yourself, the more you can share that with other minds around you. And that's what I've been learning to do. And going through the church system was perhaps the biggest journey that I went through, because believe me, I got black banned day and night in that church, and they tried to shut me down time and time again. And I continued to heal people of their sicknesses when I was in the church. People would come to me and say, "Can you heal me?" I say, "Yes." And I'd touch them and they would be healed of their sicknesses. And that's the sort of things that I experienced. So that's just, you know, my journey. You know, it's my journey. So I really love it, you know. And that's what we're here for, to realise our true power. That thing that's subdued down within us, that part that's been suppressed by the oppression of this world. By the oppression of this world, our true potentials have been suppressed. But to find the liberty and the power to speak and to bring it out and to emanate that, healing those parts of myself brings healing to those around me. And I found that was a most amazing thing, a journey that I could go through. You know, I loved it, and I do love it, you know. Anyway, the South Buddha, come on up. Thank you for that question, Inbel. It really brought something out of me that I needed to say, I think. So thanks for that. Come on up there, the South Buddha.
Thank you for your answer, and also for the 100 answers that to the questions that weren't asked. South Barlow.
Thank you for the 100 answers that weren't asked. I can't help myself, Inbel.
When you actually go into a different realm, say if you would actually focus I bet, some people, they can't grow their grass. So it takes them like 49 days, but, oh, okay, it's a long time. Yeah, but like I said, the Thai bed, what it is, the Thai bed, how to say it, at the end, it's all perfection, no matter if you see demons or if you see the other 12 good ones. In the end, you're back into another body that you progressed into.
Okay, I thought Grant might want to respond to that. I have a question. Short question. Grant, you said that, quote, life is true and death is not organic. Oh, personally, I don't believe in death. I think it was something that's taught just to scare people. My question is this: if life is true, how can death be true? That's something that's always puzzled me as a child. Life is true, so how can death be true?
Well, life is the original signature of expression of coming forth into the system of creation. You're here and you're alive. Death was something that entered in through distortions that came through experimentation with free will. We got a lot of documentation on how that happened in the manuscripts that we're talking about, how the experimentation of free will allowed for creatures to go beyond the bounds of the physics of creation and to disconnect from what we call perpetual motion life flows. So we go right back into what the physics of creation is. And you might say, let's start with the first particle of consciousness and how it communicates in an outward expression of, say, okay, you've got a particle of consciousness that says I am this, and then it expresses into two particles, so it goes from 1 to 2, and the two particles that come from the 1 would be like electric, magnetic, and all different kind of polarities. All polarities generate from the division of the 1, but they all fold back into the 1 and report back into what we call creation source or creation point doorway, so that there's an archive of consciousness that as consciousness emerged into space-time, matter densities, experientialities, everything was recorded coming forth and it always reported back in. And that's what we call a trifold matrix. So 1 created 2, the 2 folded back into the 1, and then it replicated, generated quanta, came out into expansion and continued out, and that's what creation is. So what happened in the case of separation from that triune kind of expression was that part of consciousness no longer reported back to source and became particles of consciousness that were in a matrix of what you call finite life. And that finite life was a death sentence. In other words, there was no perpetuation of life and a giving and receiving, a flow and a backflow, and a perpetual motion of generation within the particles of consciousness. And part of our consciousness is made up of those dead light constructs, which we call calorine rays or Shona light fields of dead light. So part of our consciousness, from going way back in time, from the ones who created line upon line upon line, if you can imagine generation after generation after generation of creation, even in its multiplicity, was extending and perpetuating the information from one generation to the next. And when distortions came into one generation, they were perpetuated to the next. And there's been a cross-hatching of distortions come in. And here we are living on this earth now, where death has become evident because not all of our anatomy is made up of perpetual motion, life flow, generation, perpetual motion, consciousness particles. Some of the fields of our anatomy are dead-like constructs, and they drag us down to death. So death is not organic. It's not something that was in the original structure of perpetual motion life, but has come in through hybridization, through genetic coding, through race line mixing, through radar race line space-time interventions, through distortion fields, time rip technology. I can go on to about what kind of technology has been involved in other space-time entities coming into our planetary system and contaminating us and siphoning our energy off into their matrices. I can talk about that a bit if you want to. But death became evident when we no longer gave our true focus to the perpetual motion life streams of our original source of creation. Death is not organic. Life is true. Life is what we originally came forth as. And the whole purpose of the healing of the mind is to restore perpetual motion flows to the construct of the anatomy, because the anatomy is the product of the mind. The mind is outside of the body, projecting the body. When your mind, which looks at your body is a matter manifestation of one harmonic frequency band below your mind. So if you can see your mind is outside of your body, looking at your body, the body is a matter manifestation with distortions in the template. If you want to renew the body structure and overcome death in the body, which is what the teachings of all religions in the world really were in the beginning, regenesis, you're going to have to utilize higher mind constructs and constellations of thought, elemental flows of life, to come down and override and overwrite the corruption in the templates of your hologram. And that's what it's about. It's about overriding the corruption in the templates of your hologram and realigning the perpetual motion flows in the structure of your hologram and the energetic flows which constitute what we call the Merkaba, or the vehicle of expression into the auric fields of your perception. You're going to be creating something from a true alignment, not distorted fields of mutated DNA through hybridization and invader race lines that have caused the problems in the planet that we see today. So that's just a little bit about it, I'll hand over the mic, Inkbell. I see your hands up there now.
Well, many thanks for all the effort you put into answering the question. To be honest, I'm not any wiser. But hey, yeah, I'm a single guy, and I like to keep things. I like to keep things simple. I really do. So I should read your book and get a deeper understanding. Listening to you, I've been thinking that I'll write a book. I mean, I'd call it Two Minds, One Choice. How about One Mind, Infinite Choices? That's not a put down. It just shows a demonstration of where I agree with you up to a point, and like I said, halfway through, wow, we've got totally different directions. Hey, that's okay. There's no right or wrong in this sense. But then as I thought about it, I realised every time I've tried to write in the past, if it's, well, I don't try, I do. Every time I've written in the past, I find it very difficult to be serious for any length of time. And no matter what I write, no matter how serious I start out, in a way it degenerates into a load of fun, So, if I write a book, a fun book, or not book, but writing, it always seems to finish up with a couple having oral sex. So I thought, perhaps we're not better write anything at all. However, Joe has extended an invitation to interview anyone. I hope you listen there, Joel, right? Joel has Don't talk to me about that, Nick. Be fair. Um, anyway, Charles extended an invitation to interview authors of books. Well, Joe, I'll accept the invitation. Right? I've written a book. It's not down on paper. It's written and it's in my head. The reason it's never going to be down on paper is simply because by the time I finish doing that, it will be out of date. Right? So if you want to interview me, you go in the book in my head. It's called One Mind, Infinite Choices. Do it. Okay. And how about that? Now, on a more serious note, not that I wasn't serious about that, okay? Question. Okay, serious question. If death is not organic, then what is it? Are you able to answer that one in a couple of sentences, please?
If death is not organic, what is it? A couple of sentences if I can reduce myself. Death is a distortion in the template of the angelic human imprint for life. We never used to die until the manipulations came in and caused death here as what we know, as a reality. We can overwrite that distortion and bring perpetual motion, life flows in again and no life. But until we know life, we'll know life and death, which is the duality, which is not the reality. And you don't keep reincarnating into higher fields of consciousness and ascending evolution of consciousness. Every time you reincarnate, you lose quanta in your seed atom and you go into distortion fields of less ability to incarnate into a body and overcome death in the body. You have less power next time to overcome death in the body. Your whole purpose for being here is to overcome death in the body and to transcend the limitations of the constraints that have been put upon us. And that's the whole purpose of being here. It's not some Buddhist idea of, oh yes, we keep on evolving and fly through the universe and keep on going to different experiences. No, that's a lie. You've got to realise that you are contained in the earth through the magnetosphere here, and that you go into hibernation zones or you go into different distortion fields every time that your body dies, and you've got to be brought back out into a body and given a new hope and a chance to overcome the death trap that's here, you know. That's what the teachings are. And when you finally see that, you'll endeavour to do that. And when you do, you'll be free. Until then, you'll be totally suppressed and controlled by this world that brings all sorts of religious nonsense into your mind. And we need to know how to break free of the religious nonsense that holds us away from our potential to escape from the bondage of corruption. And I'm a little bit passionate about that because I've seen through it, and I want to do it for myself. Even if I prove it to myself, it'll be good enough, but I'd love to bring many with me. So anyway, I hand over the mic.
Before the world was, thank you very much for taking some time. I mean, you obviously have a firm grasp of what you believe. And it seems that it wavers from back and forth, so I already know that you can pretty much tell that what your observations are is that there's always, you know, the left brain and right brain, wrong and right, you know, cause and effect, or some sort of, you know, magnetics that has some sort of positive and negative pull. You know, I can see that, and actually I believe in that just the same. So one of my last questions would be, since you were talking about death and how it, you know, our bodies actually go into the earth and become some sort of spiritual aura or whatever the case is. So when we die, would you say that that our so-called spirits leave our bodies as energy and give to the gravity and atmosphere of the universe? Or do you believe that when you die, is there some alternate power to bring consciousness to a different dimension?
of course there's ultimate power to bring consciousness to a different dimension, but you've got to do that whilst you're trapped in the illusion. Whilst you're trapped in the body of death, you've got to reinvigorate your body and accrete your DNA strand aggregation back into, you might say, a certain ascension package. You've got to be able to migrate your consciousness out of the magnetosphere of this earth. If you can't migrate your consciousness out of the containment, you're contained within it. It's called bioregenesis. You need to be making connections into higher dimensions, not through channeling or through some ET or some God or some Lord or some other form of guide. You have got to find your own true being and your own true stations of consciousness that represent you on higher dimensional fields. You've got to download into your biological anatomy the true you and not channel anyone else. The moment you channel someone else, you're bringing something else into your fields and you're contaminating that. You've got to bring it in a way that you can regenerate yourself, get yourself up to at least 4.5 DNA strand accretion and chakra activation to get your consciousness out into a higher platform so that you can reincarnate into another planetary system of regenesis which is not held within distortion fields. We're held in distortion fields here, and that's the whole problem. The containment that's here is severe, and the moment you start doing the work kathara and start looking at the work and what's going on the planet energetically, you'll begin to see what you are, how you fit in into your tribal shield, into your earth shield, into your solar shield and galactic shield, and how the energy flows and how you have been contained by intruder race lines and invader races that have hybridized your outer coat of genetics. You have been remotely controlled and are being remotely controlled by parts of consciousness in other dimensional fields that are acting through your auric field and causing you to do things in this planet according to their agenda and not your true mind. And the moment you realize that, you can start to undo that and regenerate yourself, reverse engineering the original template and encryption of your original coming forth, the radiation signature of your true crystal being, and you can regenerate yourself into perpetual motion flows and overcome the burden. But until you do that, you'll be losing your quantum. Every time you reincarnate here in the illusion, you're losing quantum and less power to overcome the burden of the body of death that you're reincarnated into. And that's what we're talking about, you know. So there you go. So just a bit of an answer to your question there. So hand over the mic.
Hopefully my mic's working. I'm not quite sure. I haven't used it for a while, but overall, I think I don't know, from what I'm hearing here, it's great or whatever, but when the passion seems to come through, it's like you're that dude at the front of the church that's, you know, then putting a whole bunch of fear into us, and I don't know, I think there's still some internal work you need to be doing because it's not quite 100% there.
Yeah, I like it as well. I'm enjoying it. I mean, I like the idea of writing a book. I like the semantics as well before the world was. I think you certainly need to be capable of using semantics to be able to play on the audience's pleasures and needs. I could probably write a book. The grammar and the pronunciation and so on wouldn't be accurate, but I think the creativity could be there. But I've got a question. It's a quick question, simplistic. What validates your experience as an absolute? Because think about it, there are millions of books in existence right now. And I've read about 30 or 40 of them. And I haven't come to any revelation about existence. I haven't realised God, I'm not awakened or enlightened. And I'm guessing that your book is maybe similar to all of those other individualised experiences. So I'm just going to ask the question, what validates yours as being the one that should be read? Why should I buy your book and nobody else's?
Well, basically I'm not here just to sell the book. It's pointing towards the work which is essential for your escape from here. Because of the state of the consciousness of humanity, there has to be something come in to stimulate the mind to show you an alternative to what you've currently been doing, and that's what the book's for. I show a few miracles at the beginning of every chapter to just show, well, there's something working in me, yes, there's something working in me. It's something that's down there and it's innate and it's been suppressed and it's coming through, and I can do it and so can you. And you ought to be doing it too, because if you're listening to this world, you're being continuously suppressed, but you have something knocking at the doorway within yourself that you need to get out and start realizing your own potentials and bringing it out in a way that you can experience it yourself. I mean, my experiences are personal to me. I can tell you about them and you say, oh, that's wonderful, but it doesn't relate to you. You've got to do it yourself. And so my book is really to tell you, you're going to do it yourself. And there's just an example of what's happening to me, you know, and also to lead you towards the technology that's coming into the planet currently to assist you in the ascension process, because we've become so dumbed down here as a people, so shut down and so isolated and insulated from the true knowledge that we're running agendas of the world, and we're all trying to find some gratification through the world programs, and there's no way you're going to find peace or joy or anything else through the world programs, but only through your own experience and self-revelation, actualization, as you bring this true you through the gateways of your own knowledge of yourself, through your own receptor sites of self-identity. You're going to have to find it yourself. And that's what it's about anyway. So I hope that's answered it in some way. So you're going to do it yourself. I'm just here to encourage you to do it yourself, you know. And everyone else is trying to make $1 out of teaching world teachings. I'm teaching something off this planet that's come down to remind you that you are off this planet, that you've got nothing to do with the corruption of this world, and you're going to have to get out of this world because this world's going down the black hole. That's what I'm talking about, you know. So anyway, hand over the mic.
See, you did it again. That last little part there, you're doing awesome, saying, yeah, you can find it within yourself and whatever, and then you switch it over to that it has to be done in the way that you're describing and what you're offering up for information from your book. And if you're really interested in people finding it for themselves, consciousness is already doing that, as I feel that the awareness within me is what's teaching me. It's not about what you can tell me consciousness is to be teaching me. The awareness is, for me, slightly very easy. Take a breath. That's all you need to do. Take a breath. And all the rest of that to me is just a big story taking us away again from this moment. We don't need to go anywhere else. You don't need to make a story of it. And it just seems again that the anger, I don't know if it's really anger, but there's something there that is saying from listening and feeling to your energy that I have to do what you're telling me, or, you know, I'm gonna whatever. And it's just, I don't know, it started out wonderful, and it's true, you know, there was parallels like Inbel was saying there, that similar for my own experience, but then it just went so far way out there that it just, I don't know, if we're gonna teach people to do their own thing and let the awareness is already doing it anyways, so if you're asleep, you're meant to be. If you're waking up, you're going to take notice to these little glistenings that are happening, and the conditioned mind doesn't even have to get in there anymore. Ask a question and awareness will tell you. You know, nobody needs to be telling you that. They have to do it your way. It's not going to work for me if I do it your way, so it just doesn't make sense. But overall, I guess it's cool. Go ahead, Temper Pro.